Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Hey, and welcome back to the Single Muslim Peeps podcast. My name is Taz, and here I'm with.
Sophia, I'm back, guys. Hi.
She's back, guys. She's back.
Yeah.
Hope you're all okay, inshallah.
And I hope that your Ramadan is a blessed one, and we ask the Almighty to accept our fasts, our prayers, our du'as, and forgive our sins and bless us and all the Ummah by His grace, inshallah. Ameen.
On today's episode, we're going to be talking about some very, very deep topics. Very, very deep topics, but they need to be covered. We need to talk about it. Put it out there. Um, Loneliness.
Yeah, it's so depressing.
So
Start the
depressing.
violin playing. Someone start playing the violin right now.
We were
But
just
yeah,
saying what woe is me earlier.
I know. Yeah.
But yeah, this episode is going to be aimed at all the people out there who are feeling lonely, regardless of your relationship status. We will delve in and hopefully give you a little bit of an insight on our personal reflections, as well as some hints and tips on how to deal on feelings of loneliness.
Yeah. So just on this topic, Sophia, do you feel lonely? What are your thoughts on loneliness?
Wow, Taz, you're asking very deep questions
As
here.
as a
Do I feel
single
lonely?
independent
Yeah.
Muslim woman, do you feel lonely?
I mean, I think it would definitely be a disservice to say that I've not felt lonely. I think anytime, within our life, there's moments where we do feel lonely. I think as you grow though, right? I think like it's a different type of loneliness. It's not like the type of loneliness that, like standard or stereotypically we would think about it. It's more loneliness in the way of like, what's next for me, right? Loneliness in like a lot of folks, you see a lot of your friends getting married, or you see friends kind of, whether it's marriage or otherwise, kind of going on to their next phase. You're like, wow, I'm not in that group now. Like, everyone's kind of moving forward. So it's like, loneliness can be defined in so many ways. And I guess like for me, I would definitely again be lying to you if I said I wasn't lonely at times. But I think, through the years, as I've been navigating adulthood, now being someone I would consider in the late 20s group, I would, I think it's like something that I've started to like learn and kind of embrace a bit more. And I think it's something that, it's not talked a lot about more, like, like self-love and self-care and embracing yourself and those kind of things.
Absolutely.
But yeah, what about you, Taz, before we get into too much details?
No, I
What
think
about
I
you?
think you've hit the nail on the head there, to be honest with you, in
Yeah.
terms of like anybody can feel lonely. You could literally be surrounded in a room full of people. You could be,
Hmm.
one of those people that's got a big family and you're always surrounded by your family, or you've got lots of friends and you're always surrounded by your friends, but
Hmm.
you could still feel that empty sort of feeling inside. And I think it could derive from a lot of things. It could derive from, like you mentioned, your friends are moving on with their life. They're having kids. They've got, obviously a husband or a wife. They've got
Hmm.
somebody in their life, and you're still sort of stuck at that stage where you haven't quite found that person in your life yet. And you need to kind of reflect on that. I think you need to figure out, why am I feeling the way that I am? And you also need to recognize that this is normal, it's part of life. And I'm sure there are married couples out there who may feel lonely. They've
Right.
found their one, and this thing, that the magical goal that we all want to achieve, they've achieved that, and they still can feel that way. They can still feel alienated and lonely and empty. So
Yeah.
it's about recognizing why you feel that way, and really delving into that. And you mentioned self-care. I think that's a very, very important thing as well. you need
Hmm.
to you need to, yeah, take care of yourself. You need to figure out, what can I do to overcome this feeling? What can I do with my time? What can I do, even like spiritually? What is it spiritually that I can do, which is perfect, because obviously Ramadan, as we are recording this, it's just around the corner, and inshallah when this drops it will be Ramadan. It's a perfect time to self-reflect and really think about your goal as a human being and why you are here on earth. Our goal is not just marriage and having children. Our goal is basically just being obedient to Allah, recognizing the creator, and being a good person all round.
Yeah. Oh my God. A lot of the stuff I resonate with so much. But like going back to the question you asked, right? About like what's making you feel lonely, right?
Yeah.
There's certain things or certain factors that play in a role into like why you feel lonely, and like this idea of what being social really means within our society, right? A lot of times when we think of someone who is social, we think of someone who's really extroverted, has a million friends, goes out all the time, like someone who's like constantly just in contact with people. And so like when we kind of associate not being that to you being like either antisocial or just a lonely person,
Yes.
there's like a lot of that negative stigma associated with it. But honestly, it could just mean like you're just not, you just don't have the capacity or the stimulation to be able to give that kind of energy to
Introverted.
people.
We talked about this
Right,
before we started recording this podcast. We
right.
were having a really good chat, weren't we? And that one of the things that I said, I'm the type of person. If you ask me what kind, are you an extrovert or an introvert? And I said introvert because that's just
Yeah,
who I am.
yeah.
And I think we need to get out of this mindset of comparing our lives to other people.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
our downfall when you are comparing your life to this person, especially like with social media and all this stuff where everything is
Oh yeah.
airbrushed, everything's amazing, everything just seems really glossy, and these couple goals and the rest of it, which yeah, it's just a load of
It's a
rubbish.
mess. It
It's
can
a
be a
mess.
mess.
It
Yeah.
really is, and it's not a true reflection of how these people are living and what's going on behind the scenes, because I'm pretty sure when a husband and wife have an argument or a fight or something horrible happens, the last place they would post about it is social media.
Yeah.
So we need to get out of this mindset of comparing our lives to others, because
Mm-hmm.
we are all on this path, but we are at different stages within this path. And
Exactly.
we just have to kind of like recognize that.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, yeah, definitely it's like really taking, so the thing about, assessing and figuring out,
Mm.
what loneliness means to you, or like how you define loneliness, or, what are the factors that play a role into why you feel lonely. That requires some uncomfortable work, right? It's really
It does.
uncomfortable to sit with yourself and really process why you feel lonely.
Mm.
And I honestly would bet on it. A lot of times it has to do with these like external factors that are really tied to these standards that society sets, right? We're like, oh, I don't have a lot of friends, right? And you're like, that's what makes me feel lonely.
Mm.
Or like, like maybe it's like you just lack social communication and contact. Like, we're in the middle of a pandemic. So I think a lot of times people are really hard on themselves, and they're
Yes.
like, I just haven't talked to anyone like for weeks or something like that. And it's like, I need to go out and like start talking to people, which is great. But everyone requires a certain level of social interaction. So it's like really thinking about, what are these external factors, a lot of things that kind of Taz had mentioned, and like kind of just assessing like what that definition means to you, right? Like what is it that's making you feel lonely? What kind of things can you do to kind of, start getting out of that feeling of loneliness? Like, is it just that you need to FaceTime a friend a couple days, during the week?
True.
Get more in contact with your family, things like that, that can really help with kind of alleviating it, or even just spending time with yourself, right? Like I think something that I'm coming to learn as I progress throughout my life is like being comfortable with myself, and like being completely fine being alone, and being able to feel content just with my own company. And I think like maybe that's something to think about as well. Like, do you feel comfortable when you're by yourself? Like, do you feel completely content and you're able to go about your day and feel completely fine, without feeling you're missing out on something, or there's something depleted, or you need some other type of energy? Like, do you give yourself that? So
Absolutely.
these are kind
Yes.
of things like to kind of think about. And I think, especially during a time in a pandemic, and, especially with this podcast kind of focusing on single Muslims as they're in the search process, right? The search process is really daunting, y'all. Like, I want y'all to know, like, it's tough for everybody. Like, I know that you might feel like, oh my God, am I the only one going through this? Like, no, you're not. Like,
You're
it's
not.
very common. So know that like you're not alone in this. And the avenues of how you go about finding a spouse has just become exasperated and very difficult. Like, we have a crisis at our hands right now within the Muslim community. um and so like don't feel like, because you've not accomplished that quote unquote whatever goal it might be by a certain age, that you're like a failure, or like, in that sense you start to feel really lonely, right? Just because, you maybe have friends that have moved on in their lives, or they've started doing different things, like that shouldn't be something that really should be consuming you so much to the point where you're just like, I'm so alone and I'm so lonely, and like I can't, whatever it might be. So I think it's like thinking about that. And I think like the one thing that you can guarantee in life is what I've learned is yourself, right? The one thing that you know will always be there for you is your own self and your well-being. And you got to take care of that. You got to take care of your mental health and take the steps that are important. And that means removing negative energy or energy that's going to be really toxic to you. So like if you have a friend on your Instagram page or whatever social media platform you might be using, and you see them just constantly posting about their significant other or posting about something that like you have an insecurity about or you're struggling with, just take that, like just remove that out of your life. Like, why do you need that? You know what I mean?
And you can do it so subtly as well, like with social media. It could be
Very much.
those new, like notification feeds, all that
Mute.
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Just mute all that kind of stuff. It's not to be negative or alienate your friend. It's
Mhm.
more to protect yourself if you feel that vulnerable, because there are people out there who unfortunately they're obsessed with the thought of obviously finding somebody and what have you, and it can be really really sort of mentally challenging, especially when they've got all this all these couple goals, hashtag whatever. I'm too old for this.
Yeah.
All that kind
I'm
of
with
stuff.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, and it can be really sort of like mentally draining because you're constantly finding yourself comparing your life to other people. You need to look after yourself, your mental health, and the only way you could really do that is to get to know yourself. Get to know
Yeah.
yourself, remove any negativity, whether it's news feeds, hashtag couple goals, or it could be somebody really toxic in your life. It could be an old friend, your only friend, but that friend is dragging you down. They're not bringing anything positive or good to you and to improve your life, as any good friend should.
Right.
So
Right.
you really need to think about connecting with yourself, and you can only
Mhm.
count on yourself. You can't count on anybody else. Um, but yeah, it's just about
Yeah.
removing that sort of negativity in whatever way that you can, really, and look
Yeah.
after your mental health.
Right. And I think like it also goes into boundaries, right?
Yeah.
The word boundaries is not something that I have ever really been familiar with growing up. Like it's not something until I reached adulthood where I was like, why am
It's
I
a
just
choice.
my
I can do
energy?
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like, why is my energy constantly being depleted? Like I'm just constantly giving so much. And I'm honestly, I grew up to be a bit of a people's pleaser. I feel like it's more of a women issue, to be honest. Like we've been
Yeah.
raised, especially depending on the culture you're raised in. Women are, constantly like, sacrifice and, don't
You've
say
got to be
no
a
and
good
don't be
wife. You've
rude.
got to be this.
Got
You've
to
got
be
to be
this
that.
and all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So you grew up with that kind of mentality. And so you don't understand this definition of boundaries. And it's a really great word. And I, I encourage you all to do research on it and really reflect on your own life and boundaries in different aspects, right? Within your work, within your family, within relationships that you have, even within social media, right? Like, what are the boundaries that you feel like you need to set in order for you not to be so mentally and emotionally affected, so that it's not affecting you so much to the point where you just constantly feel like negative energy within yourself, or you're going to the point where you're feeling really lonely,
Mm,
right? And
mm.
it can be so lonely when you see folks posting. I know we keep kind of pinning on like social media, but it is really lonely when you see folks like posting stuff that you just wish it was you, or
Yeah.
like, why can't that be me? Like that's just it just exacerbates that feeling inside of you. And so it's like, why expose yourself to that energy? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Remove
Yeah.
it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's kind of the work that you need to figure out. You have to kind of, first of all, assess like, what are my boundaries? What is it that, assess like what makes you feel bad, right? Like what gives you a negative reaction when you see it? And if, doing that work, you see that certain things really, create that kind of negative energy, remove it, remove it. You know
Mm.
what I mean? And that's kind of, where boundaries come into play. And I think like that's something that we need to talk about a bit more, right? I know we talk about it when it comes to relationships, like romantic relationships. I think that's something that's talked about a bit, right? Like how much we're willing to give to someone, before we're
Absolutely.
like, oh, we're not going that far. Like that's the boundary that I'll hit. But
Mm.
we need to take that also into our family lives and to ourselves, right? Like what kind of boundaries are you setting with yourself, right? Like you're,
There's only so much you can give out as a human being before you start burning
exactly.
your own soul.
Like you,
So
yeah, exactly. Like you
yeah.
have to assess like what, like how much is too much, right? Like you also need to prioritize your own self, your own mental well-being, your physical well-being, right? There's a
Yeah.
lot that goes into that kind of stuff too. So I think like that's also an aspect that I don't think we talk too much just generally. And obviously like we do talk about it more in a romantic sense, right? Everyone has like a list and things they're okay with, things they're not okay with, which is great. That's a great start. But I think you need to also take that into everyday relationships that you have with folks, your workplace, because that also can contribute to loneliness, right? When you're just so depleted from emotional energy and mental space, like you're just constantly going to just feel burnt out, and that's not good at
Absolutely.
all, right?
No.
um so boundaries is a great word. Learn about it.
I think
There's a lot of books out there for sure too that I think are really great reads.
if you come
But
across
yeah,
any, please do recommend them.
yeah, I will.
I would love to have a little read, and maybe our listeners could do the same as well. That'd be really cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. But yeah, another thing as well, is it because are you feeling lonely because your life is empty essentially in terms of
Mm,
like you're not much is really happening, you're not really being proactive, you're feeling kind of depressed, you're feeling down, it's got this knock-on effect. The way you feel has a knock-on effect on the rest of the way that you perceive things and you function as a human being. So is it, could it be something that you could control in a sense, or you could do something about? You mentioned you could be lonely because you don't really have much of a circle around you, reaching out to your family, to some good friends, having that good positive energy around you and support system, that could be a huge sort of help towards you feeling lonely. It could be you've got too much free time, you're not really investing in that time. One of the things that you could do really with Ramadan as well, inshallah, is connecting to your creator. I think that's the
mhm,
main connection we really need to work on, myself
mhm.
included. I really, I'm looking forward to getting back into doing that, because as human beings we do move away from that, we kind of lose our connection, it may not be as strong as it could be.
Yeah.
And really and truly, I think that's the key to our happiness, really, connecting to your creator. He has
The
control
greater
of,
purpose. Yeah.
absolutely, he can control everything. If you can work
Mhm.
on that and have a good connection with Allah, then you can
You're never
you know,
alone. Then you come
absolutely.
to the idea of like, I'm never alone because I always have God on my side, you
Yes,
know?
yes, and
And
that
that's
could
one
be,
of the best,
yeah,
yeah, that's kind of like one of the best investments in energy, that you can put into is like working on the greater purpose here in life, right?
because this
Because
is why
people
we're
are
here.
exactly, and people are always going to be, not to be so pessimistic or negative, but people are, at some point there's an expiration date on that,
Yeah,
you know?
yes,
We're all human beings at the end, we're all going to die. The
yes,
one thing that you can always count on is the greater purpose, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so like if you can work on that, spirituality is something that you find important, invest into that, right? I know we're really like, a lot of us are really trying to just find ourselves a spouse, right? Fill like that half of our deen and stuff, which is great. But in a time like this, right? We're in a pandemic. It's so difficult to meet folks. Like the only way they can do it is the online space. And, given a lot of like our last podcast and a lot of the situations we've been through, it's clear that maybe it's not the best time to do that right now. And
yeah,
especially like you have Ramadan, like we've alhamdulillah, inshallah, we make it to the first, the month of Ramadan. But
inshallah.
like you have this time to really utilize, to be able to really build and strengthen that relationship with God. um and yeah, I think like a lot of folks like kind of miss that sometimes, and hopefully like you all listening to this,
Yeah,
you'll see like, okay, maybe I need to take a break from this online search, right? Because I know it can be so like, you can really get sucked into it.
you can.
Like personally, I got sucked into it, like I'm not gonna lie, like I got sucked into it for some time where I was just, talking to one person, it wasn't working, then I would jump right back in rather than processing what happened with that person. I'm like, no, I can find someone else, right? And just like you
Yeah.
continue this cycle that
You,
like
you
you
don't want
burn
to miss
yourself
out.
out.
You don't
Hmm.
want to miss out as well. You've got this idea in your
Exactly,
head, like,
FOMO.
yeah, you think like, this is my goal, I have to stick with it. Did it work out with
Yeah.
this person? I've got to ASAP get on to, the next one, and talk to this person and that person. And you just find yourself wasting precious time and headspace when it's
Hmm.
not working out. Guys, take it as a sign it's not working out. Take a break. It's okay to take a break. You're
Yeah.
not going to miss out on your soulmate. You know why? Because your soulmate is your soulmate. That person you're going to end up marrying. Yeah. And
Yeah,
if Allah's
100%.
written that, if the creator has written that, even if there was mountains and mountains in front of you obstructing you from getting to that person, Allah will make it easier for you to get there and get married to that person. So you're not missing out on anything. What you're doing is you're recognizing, right, this is not working out right now. I need to take a break. I need to take a minute. This is a sign. Take a step back and reevaluate the situation. and work on yourself and think about what can I do to improve myself, and what can I do to improve the way that I am searching as well when I do feel like, okay, I'm up to it again, I want to go
Yeah.
back into it, I'm ready for this. You know, I've had conversations before via Reddit with some youngsters, and they did not want to take a break, man.
Oh
They were like,
Lord. Yeah. Some of them have the endurance and perseverance level that I'm like, yo, you need to
you
stop. You've
got,
been 8 months
yeah,
in, like take a break.
absolutely, yeah, you've got to give it to them because they're not
Yeah. Oh my
stopping.
God.
But
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
time, it's like, come on, man, this is so damaging
It's so
to your
mentally,
mental
yeah,
health
draining.
and your
Mhm.
spirituality. You just need to take a step back, take a
Yeah.
breather, and, you know, go back to it in a month, 2 month, 6 months
Yeah.
down when you're
It'll be
ready.
there. It'll literally
Exactly.
be there.
It
It'll
will.
still
Nothing
be there.
nothing is going to change. Your
Yeah.
soulmate is going to be there waiting for you, and it could happen at any time. It could happen
Yeah.
literally. You know, I've got a close friend of mine, and I don't want to go into too many details because
Yeah.
obviously I would like to jump on to one of our podcasts, inshallah, and tell her story.
Mhm.
But you know, she had an obstruction. You know, she in getting to know her potential and things. You know, she really wanted to get married to this person, and something happened. You know, there were yeah, again, I'm trying to kind of word it so I'm not giving too much away, but yeah, something
Yeah.
had happened and she thought, okay, there's absolutely no hope, and it was like over a year down the line, and
Oh.
next thing you know, this person's back in the picture, and they got married very, very quickly, and mashallah, they've been married 10 years. 10 years. I
Mashallah. That's
know. I
amazing.
know, and it has nothing to do with online, nothing, none of that.
Yeah.
You know, 10 years ago, I don't think online stuff
No,
sort of,
I don't think it was a
yeah,
thing back then.
it wasn't really a thing, was it?
No.
So it was, you know, and that kind of gives me hope, and it should give you guys hope. And hearing that, like, look, no matter what happens, if that person is written for you, they will be yours. Simple as that, and you will be theirs. So taking a break, it's not going to take anything away from that.
Yeah, and just trust God. I think like again, it goes back to strengthening that relationship with God and having tawakkul, you know. Like you
Absolutely.
can do the best you can. Like you know, many you have, right? Like you realize like, oh my God, I just been 8 months into the search and I cannot find someone. Like, why won't someone stick? Like just realize there's tawakkul, right? You just gotta put your tawakkul into God, and obviously like no one wants you suffering, just like constantly going on and on and on and trying and trying.
Yeah.
Like you need to realize again your limits and your boundaries,
Mm,
right? That goes back to
absolutely.
limits and boundaries. And actually I wanted to insert the book title that I'm currently reading right now, that is actually I think would be a really great read for many of you, that talks about what boundaries are and sort of in different aspects of our life. So there's this boundaries expert on Instagram. This is one of the people that you probably should all follow. Her name is Nedra Tawab, and she does a lot of really great like posts about boundaries and like trying to educate folks about like what a boundaries are, how you set them, even gives you phrases on what you can say to people if like they're asking for things that you're like not okay or comfortable doing.
That's
But
pretty
she
awesome.
recently, yeah, recently released a book called Set Boundaries, Find Peace, a guide to reclaiming yourself. And so again,
Wow.
that's by Nedra Tawab. So you guys should check her out. And I've started reading it, and my God, I'm like, she's literally saying words that I've said myself
No
as
way.
a way to like comfort myself for not feeling guilty because I said no to someone. So I think like honestly, like I think taking like really trying to assess like what are your boundaries, like that's the first thing, because a lot of things we can, you know, like when people are like, I'm so exhausted of doing this, or like I don't want to do this thing, or like why do I feel so mentally drained out, a lot of it has to do with boundaries and
Mm,
like the boundaries that you've set. So I think again, kind of going back to what you mentioned, Taz, is like the wakol and figuring out what your limits are, and realizing like things are going to still be there. Like, regardless if you get married or not, regardless if you get a job or not, regardless of whatever you're struggling with, like the days continue, life kind of continues. And it's just about taking that step, just kind of moving forward and doing your best, you know? And if there's something that you're struggling with, you know, take a break from it, you know, step back, you know, like kind of assess the situation and see maybe what you could do differently, right? Say, okay, we're talking about, because we talk a lot about marriage, right? If the online route is something you've tried for like a couple of years
mm.
and consistently tried, and you're like, why isn't this not working for me?
I'm
Well,
raising
maybe
my
that,
hand.
yeah, just so you guys know.
Yeah.
We'll realize like, okay, if this isn't working for me, take a step back and see, are there other ways I possibly could plug myself in to meet a potential that might be written for me, right? So it's also about trying to, figure out new innovative ways to, kind of get through the hurdles of struggles you're going through. But again, it's loneliness is like really kind of like, because there's times where you just feel so pessimistic and so just like you're over everything
Mm.
and you're just so like you've given up. So I think it's kind of like, especially with Ramadan right around the corner, and it being so common now that we're in a pandemic, and like social communication and all that kind of stuff is really struggling for a lot of, it's a big struggle for people. Like, use this time to just do some inner work with yourself, right? Like, I don't know if we're ever going to have a time like this again post pandemic where we're
Yeah.
not going to be surrounded by people all the time. So, and I know like a lot of folks, like their households are probably packed, so you probably like, I don't even have time for myself in my own house. Well, figure out, there must be ways where maybe you can space out or carve out some time just for yourself so that you can kind of, just do that inner work and really try and address, like, why is it that I feel so mentally burnt out and emotionally burnt out? Like, what's making me feel so lonely? Like, try to get to those like root causes and figure out ways that you kind of address them. I think that's kind of first steps right there for sure.
Absolutely. And it could be something as simple as just literally, you mentioned you could be in a house full of people. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It could literally be finding a corner in your house somewhere, sticking your headphones in, listen to a bit of Quran, just closing your eyes. I know it sounds really sort of, like hippified, but literally, like sometimes that's what it takes just for you to kind of like calm yourself down, calm down, and try and yeah, get back in touch with your soul and think about, why am I feeling this way? Is it because I'm not, I haven't found the one? Is it because I've got no friends? Is it because I haven't got a job? Is it because I'm still living with my parents and I'm 50 years old? It could literally be anything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about sitting down and trying to process, why am I feeling this way? Write stuff down. Honestly,
Yeah.
keep a journal, keep a diary, write down notes. It could literally be bullet points, whatever. And one day, inshallah, you will, hopefully come to the conclusion as to why you're feeling the way you do. Because until you address why you're feeling the way you do, you're not going to be able to actually do anything about it and
Yeah.
address it
Take
in
action.
absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
take action and do something about it. So it's all about, yeah, just trying to find out the reason behind that. And I know
Yeah.
that there's obviously, our podcasts are very sort of marriage orientated.
Yeah.
So we will have to, we do keep coming back to it. But
Yeah.
right now, I think if you're talking to someone and that person, you're getting an off vibe from, right before Ramadan, or they're making you feel a certain way and it's not a positive way, cut them out.
Mm-hmm.
Cut them out. Simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
You might feel like, okay, if I cut them out, I'm going to be lonely forever. I'm sorry, but being alone forever for the rest of your life unmarried is better than being strung along. I'm
100%.
just putting a
Yes.
hands up there.
Yeah. I'm
Honestly,
clapping for her.
yeah, it's all
Yeah.
about putting yourself first. You need to put yourself first as a human being, because
Yeah.
like you mentioned, I'll go back to your point, which is, you know, in layman's term, you're the only person that is really there for yourself, at the end of it. You know how to how to kind of like put yourself
You know
first.
what's best for yourself, and you know what's best for
Yeah,
yourself.
absolutely. Yeah.
You know.
So cut out the negativity, whether it's a friend, whether it's a so-called potential you're talking to. And I know it's so easy to get sucked in to the whole app thing and online thing. But guys, it's Ramadan's a fresh start. Honestly, just cut it all out. Take time out for yourself and for your spirituality and for Allah, who created you, by the way. You owe a lot to Him.
Mhm.
And just think about how you could approach it in a better and more positive way later down the line when you're ready, and you're not going to miss out. These people are
Yeah.
always going to be there. Unfortunately, some people's
Unfortunately.
yeah, some people's jobs are just literally sitting on an app and talking to as many people as they could possibly speak to. So yeah, it's you're not going to miss out on anything, honestly. And I know there's quite a few of you who are on the older side,
Mhm.
my age and plus. You could be in your late 20s, early 30s, late 30s, 40s, even 50s, God knows. And you're still spinster, as they say, still haven't found, the one. And you might feel like, okay, if I'm not proactive and putting myself out there in every single avenue possible, I'm going to miss out. But like, dude, if it's not working out, it's not working out for a reason. Allah's not making it work out for whatever reason, and that reason may not be very apparent to begin with, but eventually will. The penny will drop and you realize, right, okay, this is why it didn't work out with this person or that person, or whoever. And it's all about really just recognizing that, recognizing that, look, your creator's making you wait for a reason. And it doesn't mean you're half a Muslim because you haven't been married. A lot of people, use the whole thing, the term of completing half your deen. Yes, to get
Yeah.
married is completing half your deen, but it doesn't mean you're half a Muslim because you're not married. That's not what it means. That phrase just means it kind of like it shows how important marriage is, but it doesn't necessarily take anything away from your religion and your faith. So you can work on that. That's the way I
Yeah,
see it.
100%. 100%. I think that's really great that you mentioned that just because, marriage is half your deen doesn't make you like an incomplete Muslim. It doesn't mean that you're not complete or like you're missing something. And I think it brings the point of like everything that God sends you is a blessing, right? You're not entitled to it. You're
Absolutely.
not entitled to marriage. It's not something you get because you have to or whatever. It's a blessing that you get from God, right? You're not, so you never know if it's something that you're assured, right? And if you get it, that's an amazing blessing and you thank God for that. But you also have to keep in mind that maybe it never happens.
True. Yeah.
And I know that's so pessimistic to say, but you also have to be kind of realistic. Like, you don't know. Like, I don't know. Allah Alim, like what the reason is that God maybe makes you wait 20, 30 years and you don't get married
Oh,
till
your
like you're
whole lifetime.
70,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Or your whole lifetime you go
Lifetime.
without getting married.
Yeah, yeah, that's possible.
And so it's like really understanding that and understanding that like what God is sending you is a blessing among many blessings,
Mm,
right?
mm,
So maybe you're not blessed in the marriage department, but God has blessed you in many other ways, whether it might be
absolutely.
financial or job opportunities. So realize that, and like also, being grateful and realizing the blessings that you already currently have can really help you kind of have a more optimistic outlook on life as well. I know we get caught up on like, I want more, I want more, I want more. And I get it, you're trying to like go through the next step of life and grow, because this is what society tells us, is that when you're in your 20s, now is when you start thinking about marriage and having kids and all of that stuff and settling down, which is like, okay, cool, if that's what you want too, right? Like, have you thought about if you even want marriage? Like, I know we're kind of going down like a different road right now, but it's like, I mean, it's like, just again, it's really going back and doing the work with yourself, because we're raised like the way that we are is when we're born, we're raised in a culture that we didn't choose, right?
Mm,
We're also given a religion that we didn't choose as well.
mm,
Lucky for us being born Muslim, it makes it easier for us because Islam is an amazing religion. But
mm,
again, it's also when it comes to religion as well, right? Like, think about, why is it that I choose Islam? Why is Islam important to me?
mm.
You've got Ramadan right now to sit and really figure that out as well. And then also taking that into your personal life, like, why do I want to get married? Like, maybe you don't even have an answer for that, and that might be like a revelation for a lot of you.
And are you ready to get married? That's another.
Exactly, like, are
Just
you even
because your
ready
your,
for
your
it?
friend Mo or your friend Fatima got married doesn't mean that you should. You
Exactly.
really need to ask yourself, am I actually ready? Am I doing what I should be doing to prepare myself for this next stage in my life?
If
Because
that's a stage you want to take, if that's the
absolutely,
next stage you want to go to,
very, very
yeah.
true. You need to ask yourself, do you actually want this? And if you do,
Yeah.
are you ready for it? Have you done everything that you can in your power to actually prepare for it? Because it's
Right.
a huge, massive decision. And I hear it,
Yeah.
you might hear it time and time again, but honestly, and I know you're probably thinking, okay, but both of you are single, what are you talking about, sort of thing. But
True.
kind of true. But
Yeah.
I mean, like me being on the older side, like in my mid 30s, I have a
Yeah.
lot of friends who are married, and I'm telling you, it's not the end goal. It really isn't. They're not this. They haven't reached this peak of happiness and fully ever after because they still have issues in their life. They still have problems. It could be financial problems. It could be marital problems. It could be problems with their children. It could be so many things that they stumble across because look, we are here on this earth to be tested, right? A mu'min will never be in a place in their life when they are content with everything that they have, and everything's going very, very smoothly, and they've got money, dollar signs,
Yeah.
and they've got X, Y, and Z, because we have to go through the struggle. We do, because the reward is going to be out of this world,
Yeah.
beyond our imagination. You understand?
Hmm.
So, as a Muslim, as a mu'min, you need to really, try and remember that. Keep reminding yourself that the marriage process of it is not the end all, and it's not the beginning or the end. It's just a
Yeah.
process. And like you say, there are people out there who don't want to get married. There's
And that's
people
okay.
yeah, and there's people on Reddit who don't want to get married, and then they've got these people attacking them. They're like, oh, but as a Muslim, you have to get married. Yes, it's sunnah, but it's not obligatory to get married. You don't have to get married, but it
Hmm.
would be good. It would be great, and it would be even better if you did have children. But does it mean that you are a kafir if you don't get married? No, it doesn't. It really
No.
doesn't.
Yeah.
So it's all about recognizing what you want out of this, and also recognizing what the creator's plan is for you as well.
Yeah. Tawakkul and critical thinking and self-reflection is like the themes of this podcast.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah, like Taz, really great points that you've made. And I think they're not ones that we really talk about because again, depending on what culture you're raised in, and even like quote unquote Islamic culture, which we shouldn't even have such a thing,
Yeah.
really, really pushes this idea that like marriage equals happiness.
Mm.
But believe it or not, like you're still going to have issues after you get married. And again, I know we're two single people talking about this, but like, I mean, firsthand experience, like you obviously see like any relationship is going to have its own hurdles,
Mm.
right? So you want to sit with yourself and think about like, am I ready to take on this kind of responsibility, right? Like, am I associating a lot of emotional like possibilities and happiness to this one thing that you feel like is going to be two? Please seek out help. Like there's no shame in someone saying, like you telling a friend or even going to going to therapy. Like there's so much stigma, obviously. Like I feel like this has been a conversation
Mm.
that we hear about a lot these days, which is really great. But mental health is something that we need to take more seriously. I
Absolutely.
think
It's
our
not just a
community,
label on a poster that you see.
it's not, it's an actual struggle
Yeah.
people go through, and like you sometimes need professional help that goes beyond just Islamic scholars or
Mm.
shiuch that you see at the massages, right? You need someone who's trained in this stuff. So like if you feel like like things are becoming too much and it's really, really been tough for you to be able to engage in work or relationships, and maybe you're having really scary thoughts, like
Mm.
it's there's no shame in you seeking out actual professional help, to get help with that. There's no shame in that,
No, there's
and we all go through things, and like Allah alim, so don't feel shame in that. And I just wanted to put that out because I know we're talking about loneliness and a lot of things and all these pressures we have, and especially since we're still in a pandemic, it's important to know that professional help and seeking out that kind of help, there's no shame in it at all. I know I keep saying that, but again,
no,
just to say it in a
oh yeah,
third time.
100%, you're right.
Yeah.
What we'll do is, inshallah, we'll link some of the possible sort of online therapists and helplines, that kind of professional people that you can get in touch with if you are really in that dark place and you feel like you can't speak to your family, or you
Hmm.
can't speak to your friends. Maybe they're on a different level, they may not get you, or maybe you might feel ashamed, maybe you don't want anybody to know about it. So inshallah, what we'll do is we'll link some yeah, we'll put some stuff in the description box for you to hopefully reach out and get some help. Um, and I think, we all go through this phase in our life for whatever reason where we do feel very alone and isolated. Um, and like I mentioned before, you could be surrounded by a lot of people, but they could not
Hmm.
get you. You might not be able to talk to them about these deep, thoughts and dark sort of thoughts. So don't feel like you are by yourself. We all go through depression and loneliness, and you're normal. You're a normal human being. These are normal feelings, but it's about recognizing and understanding why you're going through this, and actually reaching out, getting help, and self-soothing. You need to tell yourself it's okay. It's okay.
Hmm.
I don't need to be, I'm in my 30s. I don't need to be married with 6 children and living in a £1 million house somewhere and living it up and comparing myself to X, Y, and Z, because that's not the path that Allah's written for me. So you need to recognize that and understand that everybody will be at a different stage in their life, and everybody will have their own struggles, even rich people.
Yeah, believe it or not, even rich people have
Yeah,
problems, but they have
absolutely.
the access and the ability to, like, have like all the opportunities and resources possible that not a lot of folks that are more in the working class do. But that's a different conversation. But yeah, I mean, it's really, again, it's coming back to that theme again, like we've been mentioning. It's, again, like I went through, like, honestly, I'm gonna share some stuff. Like, it's like definitely struggled a lot a couple years ago when I was like, let me try out this search process. And
Mm,
I'm the type of person that when I set a goal, I want to attain it.
yeah.
And I was like, I'm gonna find me a husband. Okay. I don't care.
Nobody
I'm
got
gonna
that.
find me. Yeah, I know, right? So a couple years ago, I'm like, I'm gonna find me a husband because I'm 25 and this is what I need to do. Right. And I'm like, I think I'm in the right spot mentally and I feel like I can emotionally like deal with it. So I'm
Mm,
like, that's what I need to do. That's what I thought I needed to do. Right.
yeah.
So I started really investing excessive amount of time and energy and emotion and all this stuff in each of these interactions. And obviously it just like one after the other, it was like a domino, just boom, boom, boom. It just was like, nope, nope, nope. And so then I got to a point where it just like reached where I think I was about to go crazy. I was just so like, just so mentally drained all the time, emotionally drained, that I had to actually like reach out to friends and be like, yo, I need y'all's support. Like I need some help here because I feel like I've been down this like rabbit hole that I need to kind of get out of. And so like getting that kind of support and like talking to someone really, I think helped me kind of realize and it helped me realize and do some self-reflection too on my part to come to the conclusion of like, okay, well, maybe I need to have some more tawakkul, like I need to stop trying to put this thing as a goal. And like, if I don't do it in 2 years, then I'm a failure, right? I did feel like a failure, to be honest, after a year. Like I was online for a while, y'all. So after like, having this conversation with friends and seeing that, like maybe this isn't a goal that's important for me. And maybe I do need to work on myself. I think like work, like you can always continue to work on yourself. That never stops until you die. There's always things that you can improve about yourself. There's things about, there's a lot of things that maybe like within our childhood that was toxic that we carry with ourselves into our adulthood that you don't realize until either someone points it out or you realize like you're going down really bad patterns or themes or stuff like that you're doing yourself. So I think like even in that aspect as well, that like, going through that really tough like low point had brought me to this point of like self-realization and growth. So there's some, in a weird way, there's some benefits that come from struggling, right, and feeling lonely because it's an opportunity to grow from it if you choose to, right? Because you can just stay in that kind of bubble of like everything sucks and I can't ever leave, like I'm just desperate and I'm done and I just can't, I'm never going to leave and have despair and just completely like that's it, this is it, this is it, and this is my life. Or you can choose to take the opportunity of being in such a low point in your life and find ways that you can grow from it. And honestly, it only makes you stronger. I think moments of failure are way better lessons than moments of success, because success is like just validation. It just validates the work you do. But it's not until you fail and you fall that you're like, oh my God, this hurts a lot. But like, okay, let me grow from this. How do I kind of prevent from this kind of happening to me? Or what can I learn from this kind of experience? So yeah, I mean, that's what I've gained from a couple years of my little downfall and like, whoop, I'm going down the online rabbit hole. Whoop,
Oh,
and sorry for the sound effects, but like it was seriously so interesting. But I think again, I hopefully that resonates with someone and it helps y'all.
no, 100%. And I think from my perspective, obviously being on the older side, to be, politely put it, you're giggling. Um, yeah, from my point, obviously time is a ticking. Time is ticking, and everybody
Oh Lord.
people like to remind me time is ticking. Come on, like it's, time is
Yeah,
moving. You're
yeah.
getting old. But yeah, and I did get into that bad habit of like comparing my life to my friends and people who are my age and,
Yeah.
what their accomplishments were in terms of, finding potentials. Some of them have kids. I mean, I don't really, I have no interest in kids, so that's one
Yeah.
plus thing. Uh,
Yeah.
but you do kind of end up comparing your life. You really do, and you think, but and it makes you doubt. Shaitan
Mm-hmm.
gets in your head. It makes you doubt. What Allah is telling you. The Quran, which is, we created you in pairs, and all about being married and the
Yeah.
goodness that comes with it and what have you. And you just think, but Allah, what have I done? You're telling me this in the Quran, and why haven't you given me this? But the thing is, everything is by Allah's will, right? If He decides not to give it you now, it could be for a very, very good reason. I could have gotten married, I could have been divorced within a year, or 10 years of my life could have been wiped out in a very, very toxic marriage. Because let's face it, these things do happen. There are, divorce is real, and it's happening.
Yeah. It's a crisis actually within the Muslim community, because I feel like a lot of times people are using marriage. I mean, Allah Alim, but a lot of times, like, especially women have felt like they've needed to get married to escape their households that might be so toxic.
Yes.
And so, like, when you're just running into whatever potential thing and settling for whatever without really assessing compatibility, like, I mean, obviously, like, how long is that relationship going to last? But this is obviously another conversation, and we definitely don't want to take up too much time. But again, right, like Taz has been mentioning, like, a lot of times, there's reasons why God decides things don't work out, and that's where tawakkul comes in.
Mm.
That's where you have to tawakkul ala Allah, and like pray that whatever God writes you is for the best,
and
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 like
be
you do your
thankful,
best.
and be thankful for what you have in life.
Exactly,
You
because
may
you're
not,
blessed in many ways too that you might not realize that others aren't.
yeah, and also be thankful for what you have in your life. You may not have your significant other in your life, but you could have a great job, you could have a great family system or network, you could have a great bunch of friends that you can talk to and rely on. You've got food on the table, you've got a roof over your head. All these little things and big things in your life you need to recognize as a blessing and be thankful for. And just recognize that. Don't disregard everything that you've been provided by the creator just because of this one obstacle in your life. Recognize all the other things that are going right in your life, and work on yourself. And by that, literally, it could be anything. It could be reading a book, it could be reaching out to your friends, like what you mentioned before. It could be spending more time with your mum and dad. It could be helping your siblings who may be going through a similar issue. Literally,
Mm-hmm.
it could be anything. It's all about being thankful and trying to better yourself in whatever way you can. Um, so yeah, don't get too caught up about the whole age thing, because that doesn't mean anything
What
really.
is it, man? Yeah, it's just a
Yeah.
number. And again, like, God has written something different for every single person, and what God chooses, Allah Alim, we got to trust that. And your path is different from every single person. No person is born the same. No
No.
person is born with the same experience. Even twins have different experiences and end up with different type of life experiences and things they interact with. So just to kind of recognize that and realize that, like, okay, just because your friends are doing whatever and you're not, that you're behind, or oh my god, my life is, I'm done, like, that's it. Like, no, like, you have to realize, again, this is why Ramadan is the best time to really use it, to be able to get closer to God and strengthen that relationship where you have that trust, where you feel like you can completely put that trust in God and do your best. It's not to say, like, just put trust in God and don't do anything, but I think we're trying to reach a crowd of people that are doing too much right now. That
Yes.
maybe it's like time to just take a step back and just relax, right? And just use this time to trust God and tawakkul ala Allah. And hopefully, what God writes is best for you.
Absolutely.
But hobbies is another thing. So we're
Yes.
talking a lot about time. Hobbies is something that I know everyone's got quarantine hobbies these days. Honestly, they're one of the greatest things that you can do and have in your life, to really invest more time in realizing what your interests are, what things are really cool for you, and use different parts of your brain, and also put that energy into something of gaining a skill or something that you just enjoy doing. It doesn't even have to be a skill set. So hobbies is great. Get a hobby. If you have too much time on your hands, find something fun to do.
It could be something sporty, creative,
Literally anything.
doing an
Yeah.
online course, whether it's academic or whether it could be something Islamic related. There's a lot of stuff out there at the moment, especially
Oh
with the
yeah.
pandemic thing going on. Um, and it's all about putting yourself out there in a good sort of light, and
Hmm.
trying to better yourself and benefit from whatever you're doing, and spending your time in a more positive way. Um,
Yeah. And kind of hitting on that point, just to expand it just a bit more.
yeah, yeah.
And it's also remembering that you're not promised tomorrow.
So
When we remember that we're not promised tomorrow, and realizing, like, all you have is this moment right now. And
true.
what are you doing with that to better yourself? You know, what
That's
are you doing to, like, improve yourself or grow as a person? Because again, all you really have is yourself, and all you really can depend on is yourself. And if you're being toxic to yourself, like, believe me, no one's going to want to be around that either. So
no.
if you're just a toxic human being, like, with yourself, or maybe you have traits that you are also displaying to others around you, like that also can affect your relationships with people.
Mm.
So relationship with yourself and the relationships you have with people, that all requires time, and that requires some uncomfortable work that not a lot of people can do. But it's also, again, remembering you don't have tomorrow. You're not promised tomorrow. Again, don't feel like, oh, I could do this tomorrow, I don't need to do it right now. Or like, oh, like my time, like I'll, in the future, I'm never going to be able to whatever. What, you don't know if you're going to live next year, you don't know if you're going to live tomorrow. So just try and be more in the present moment and do things that what changes can you do right now that can help you kind of address the issues in your life, or just like realizing that you don't have tomorrow. And so just embrace what today gives you, you know?
That's so true. I mean, I was reading up about something really freaky actually. So there was a car accident in the UK. There was these two cars that basically collided into each other, and it just so happened there was a mother with a newborn baby in a pram. Like in a, what do you call a pram in
Mm,
America? What is a
a
pram in
prom.
America? Is it the same thing? It's like, what you put babies in and you push them.
Oh, like a cradle,
A
like
cradle.
a stroller, a
A
stroller.
stroller. A stroller.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah, stroller.
the
Yeah,
Americans.
I know, right?
Or us British. I don't know.
I know, that's a really interesting way that you guys call that. It's funny.
Yeah, so there was this baby in this buggy, or whatever you want to call it, stroller,
Yeah.
and one of the cars collided into the stroller, and the baby died instantly. So it just goes to
Oh
show, and
no.
it was only like a few weeks old as well. It just goes to show you literally have no idea when your time's going to end. As the youngsters, or the way I used to think when I was young, I used to think the world was just my oyster, and I had so
Mm.
many years and so long
Mm-hmm.
ahead of me. And by the time I was 30, I was going to do X, Y, and Z. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
looking back, that was so silly, because
Yeah, I agree.
the way Allah plans your life out is so different to the way that
I
you
agree.
think it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of like mortality, I know it sounds really morbid and stuff, but
Yeah.
look, as Muslims, we believe in the hereafter. We believe that there is going to be, another
A
journey.
time of death, another journey after this.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to be another journey after this, and then eventually, we'll all be resurrected and day of judgment and so on. We believe that in this.
Yeah.
So we need to really think about that. We could literally be gone anytime. Anytime we
Mm-hmm.
could be gone in any way. So
Yeah.
for myself, I know there's things that I've been putting on hold. I won't go into details, but that I should really be looking at now. So I'm going to, inshallah, use Ramadan to really reflect on those things and really think about those things and remind myself, like, look, you're not going to be here forever. Nobody's going to guarantee that you're going to live until you're 70, 80, or 90. It could
Mm-hmm.
happen anytime. So you need to prepare. We need to prepare ourselves for the next life that we'll be
Yeah.
going through, by Allah's mercy, inshallah. And whether it's salah, whether it's dua, whether it's, because when you get into salah, sometimes it can almost be, when you're disconnected, it could be a robotic thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's
I
not,
agree.
it's like a robotic ritual more than a
A
connection.
spiritual connection.
Absolutely, that
Yeah.
connection with your creator. So it could be something like that you could be working on. It could be, reading the Quran and actually understanding what the Quran
Mm-hmm.
means,
Mm-hmm.
because it's very complex, and there's a lot of things that go into context with the things that we read. um it could be that, it could be your physical well-being, it could be your mental well-being. There's so many things that you can work on. And feeling lonely and depressed and so on, if the only way to get out of this mindset really is to force yourself to pray harder, force yourself to get out of bed and do something with your day, force yourself to make dua. When you feel that there is absolutely no hope left, that's the time when you should be making dua and reconnecting with Allah the most. It really is,
Yeah.
because that's when you need him most, and that is your test. He's making you go through this this experience and these feelings, because he wants you to reconnect with him. And instead of being very negative and being angry, because we can be very angry, by nature, we could be like, why, but Allah, why, and questioning.
I think that's part of the process too, right? There is like the process of like denial and negativity until you
Absolutely.
really get to that point where you're just like, oh my God, it's really like it's really part of the growth process. Like it's natural to have this reaction of like, I'm so frustrated. And like, that's definitely valid to feel that way. But it's like what you do with that frustration is what's going to determine how you get out of the situation that you're in.
Absolutely.
And you hit on really great points in terms of spirituality, right? Ways that you can kind of work on yourself in that aspect, and physical health as well. But again, it's really going back to, like, I know a lot of folks really struggle with the idea of, like, you're telling someone, like, hey, I'm really depressed, and they tell you, just go pray.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like, I don't know if prayer is going to get me out of my depression, right? So it's
Yeah,
also going back to the idea, like we mentioned, sometimes you need professional help, and that's okay when you come to realize it. Like, if
100%.
you need it, that's fine. Like, go seek it out. Like, I know a lot of times we brush that over spirituality and just, like, go pray and make dua, which is great if you're someone who already has that strong relationship, and that gives you hope, and it helps you get through things. But some people don't have that, right? They don't have that kind of
Mm.
connection. So maybe it means taking the step of getting professional help, but no one can force you to do that. You need to actually, like, put in that kind of work, and come to that realization on your own, and realize it is uncomfortable. Again, like, that's a thing we've been talking about. Like, a lot of this stuff is very uncomfortable to do. It's scary. So, like, maybe it might mean having to tell a friend, and having a friend come with you, or something like of that sort, to get the help that you need, you know
Could do, yeah. And you could still be living in a toxic environment. Maybe your family are making you feel that way. There's a lot of stuff online about
right, 100%.
it's the family that are a very toxic unit, unfortunately. And these young people are still living at home with their family.
Hmm.
That it's just this
It's a toxic
daily
cycle that
daily trauma
continues.
every single day. It's just
Right,
toxicity.
right.
No, no, please don't think by us saying, like, look, you need to connect with Allah and stuff. It's disregarding or depression and so on. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying
Hmm.
is try and connect with Allah, because he inshallah, by that you will get a blessing, and that will be your aid, your number one aid. But obviously there's a lot of professional help out there. Definitely reach out. I know there's a lot of taboo, and that's a
There's so much taboo.
favorite
Oh
word,
my
isn't
God.
it? Our favorite word,
Yeah.
taboo, because literally everything within the Muslim community is taboo. There's a lot of taboo, there's a lot of taboo, associated around, getting professional help, whether it's, your family telling you, like, hey, like, it's shameful. No, you're making us look stupid, or
People are going to know our problems.
yeah, you're airing out the problems. People are going to know whatever. No,
Yeah.
just please, you need to get the help. If you need to
Yeah.
get the help, go get the help. Get the
Yeah.
professional help, and work on your connection with Allah. And inshallah,
Yeah.
those things, both of those things will help aid you. There's no shame in getting professional help. There really isn't, and everybody does it. From my personal experience, I've spoken to people about certain things that have happened in my life, and I've gotten some great advice from it, and some very, very terrible advice. And also as well, you need to recognize the professional may not be that amazing person who's going to help you solve everything. You could be
Yeah.
going to 10 professionals until you get to that person who's going to give you
Hmm.
the right advice and actually understand you. Um, because obviously living in the West, that's another added.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's another issue, but yeah, that's that's another topic by itself. So
Mhm.
yeah, get the help, help yourself, and don't be so harsh on yourself, for God's sake. You're
Mhm.
already feeling
Be
down, you're already
kind.
in this dark place. Stop beating yourself up about it. You're here for a reason, okay? You're going through this because there's a reason for you to go through it. Don't feel bad about getting professional help. Just reach out and have tawakkul, and inshallah, by Allah's will and his grace and mercy, you will get to where you need to get to, inshallah. So I think we've covered off the topic of loneliness, don't you
I
think?
agree. I feel like we went down many paths, but
I think we
hopefully
did, yeah.
hopefully we weren't rambling too much. Hopefully, like, this was a bit more cohesive.
I hope, inshallah, that you guys find it beneficial. Please,
Yeah.
do reach out. Do let us know. Are we doing a good job? Can we improve? How? Do you need help? Anything? Literally, just
Mhm.
get in touch, inshallah. But yeah,
Inshallah, ya Rab.
it's been absolutely great, and a
This
pleasure.
has been fun. Yes,
Absolutely,
I
yeah.
agree.
Thank you so much for your time, Sophia. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. Jazakallah khair. All right, guys. Well, have a blessed Ramadan, and we'll catch you on the next one, inshallah. Take care. Salam. Bye.